Despite our history with rock, Sudbury might not seem like a hotspot for a rising hardcore music scene, but over the decade, the genre has begun to thrive thanks to the efforts of individual musicians. Nico Taus was with the band Vicious Cycle. He's just put out a book called Songs from Nowhere. It chronicles the rise of Sudbury's all-ages punk scene as it developed over the last decade. He joined me in the studio earlier, and we talked about this scene.
Well, essentially, the all-ages punk scene is a group of kids that usually are under 19 years old and can't, go to the townhouse or other bars to see shows. So basically, the kids get together and they organize their own shows. They book them at either all-ages venues or in their basements or their parents' basements, for that matter. In our case, we, coming into high school in 2000 or whatever, we were 15, 16 years old, and we were taking a look around our scene and, comparing it to scenes that we were seeing in Toronto and Montreal, and seeing the difference in not only, I would say, quality, but in ethics. We were going to these shows in Toronto and Montreal, and people were, talking about friendship, being open-minded, supporting your community, just being socially conscious of social issues in the world. And then we would come back to Sudbury, and the shows were basically just, people playing music, rock on, and, being heavily intoxicated for the most part. So, we took influence from those scenes and, got together, some friends and I. We learned how to, we picked up our instruments, learned how to play them, and essentially wrote music that had more of a social message behind the music, and basically started from nothing, and it grew into something that is notable, I would say.
So what kind of contribution does it make in Sudbury, do you think?
I think it makes a large contribution. Like, kids like nowadays are able to go to an all ages show, maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and
there's that garage on LaSalle Boulevard.
Yeah, there's Millard's Garage on LaSalle Boulevard.
My kids have been there, yeah.
They've gone there, yeah, and tons of kids have gone there. And essentially, I think I talked to the father of the 2 sons, last year, and he said, if my kids would have been into hockey, I would have built the world's best rink back here. But since they were into music, I decided, let's build a little venue in the garage. And
it is a little venue.
Yeah, it's a very intimate little venue, and
but you get big crowds there.
Yeah, you get big crowds. Like, half the time you can't even fit all the kids in there. You open the doors, the garage doors, and everyone's just standing out there in the summer. But places like that, they give the kids somewhere to go that is a positive place instead of maybe just getting into trouble and having idle hands and
But don't tell me that illicit things don't happen at these functions as well.
Well, to be honest, I think the ethics that I was talking about earlier, describing, are positive things that people would not necessarily think youth are interested in. Us growing up, everybody our age was into just drinking and partying. And to be honest, we were completely sober. We never drank. We never smoked cigarettes. We never did drugs. We were into just creating stuff, art and music. And I think the rest of the scene that ended up following and growing after we started our first bands, were also into the same thing. We were looking for something that meant something to us, something of value that we could, learn from, qualities that we could take from creating merchandise and organizing our own tours.
And
recording.
You did go on tour, hey? Like you?
Yeah, we did.
Tell me about that.
Like I said, we started, just touring Southern Ontario. We played in Toronto, Guelph, and from there we met other people that said, why don't you come to Quebec and play? Hey, why not? We're 16, 17. Sounds awesome. Let's buy a van. So all of us worked together on our part-time jobs. Raised $6,000 or something, buy a cube van, and make our way to Quebec, and then from there, come out to Halifax, come out to, we'd go all the way out to the East Coast, to Prince Edward Island with couple bands from Sudbury. So 12 kids in 2 vans traveling around in the summer. People wondering like, man, what's going on in Sudbury? Like, well, how come there's so many good bands coming out of here, especially young kids? I think what attracted us is that this whole scene is about doing it yourself, and it's not about waiting for permission from someone or waiting. We never got a grant from the government. It was always about doing it ourselves. So we made our own merchandise, silk screened it ourselves, created it ourselves, designed it ourselves. Our bassist, Frank Chartrand, he basically organized all our tours, just talking to other people who were doing the similar sort of thing.
It was a huge learning experience, obviously.
Yeah, it is.
But the band's gone now. You broke up.
Well, yeah, I guess it's the next chapter in our lives. I'm not going to say that there'll never be other bands, but at the point that we're at in our lives right now, we all have some more serious commitments. We own our own graphic design firm, and we're both professors in the design program at Cambrian. And we also, we have girlfriends now, and the whole thing comes down to, priorities. We're getting older, but I mean,
but you've documented it all now.
Yeah, this
in
is
a book.
Yeah, this is the encapsulation of not only my teen years, but a lot of people's teen years in Sudbury. And when we look back on it, we forget the times that maybe we were sleeping on someone's hardwood floor in the middle, couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, and just thinking to myself, man, I wish I was in my bed right now. But, we forget all those bad times, and we just remember the great times, like 8 kids, in Europe from Sudbury, started out in a tool shed in Isilda. We're all the way across the ocean playing in, Madrid and, Germany and other, crazy places, and just thinking, like, how did we get here? And it's actually a very interesting story, and this book here, it's just basically 100 pages of
photos, a lot of photos.
Lots of photos, lots of stories, lots of funny stories, all the discographies that we've done.
What do you think the future holds for the punk scene in Sudbury?
As we grow up and get better jobs and stuff, we're going to start getting more organized as a scene. I know a bunch of people created a group recently called the Sudbury Music Scene. Essentially, they're trying to advocate for more venues for kids, for all ages groups and stuff like that. So I think as we grow older and we infiltrate the system, if you will, we'll be hopefully getting more venues for kids to be able to have a constructive outlet and more music.
That's Nico Taus from a band called Vicious Cycle. He's just released a book about the punk scene in Sudbury. It's called Songs from Nowhere.